Hi, it's Mark, Hothead Thundermouth. We've got an episode 11 here of ASL, another game I've been playing with Doug called J226. I'm going to show you this scenario a little bit. Drawing the Kroh, and I want to talk to you a little bit about this. As usual, I'm bringing this to you unscripted, uncensored, unapologetic, and psychologically immune from social media control. Let's get into this now. I want to explain to you what happened in this scenario. Let's look at the scenario here. Okay, take a look at this. Drawing the Kroh. To protect the innocent, I've removed some information so you can't play the scenario without the actual card. Essentially, though, the the Germans are dropping these airborne troops here. I want to get this right. So you've got airborne troops that are on the drop here. And these are prone to scatter all over the place. But more importantly, and this is actually what I found about this game, is forget about the paratroopers. What matters is what these guys can do. And I'll explain to you in a second why these reinforcements, who are completely organized in comparison to the paratroopers that drop, these are effectively dropping on an adjacent map. Let's take a look at this map here. All right, so here's the situation. I'll zoom in here a little bit. This is on turn 3. Doug had a few paradroppers. They actually didn't drop very well. They were kind of off target. You'll see that one group was over here. Actually, I think wound up 2 groups. Another one dropped over here. They were both off target. And even the one down here that was more or less on target, that's these guys, aren't exactly shaking things up. But what's really annoying for me as the defending, what am I, Australian here? Yeah, the Company A, 19th Australian Brigade. So these guys have parameters requiring them to set up on this hill like this. And they have, these are the Germans. I don't know what's in there. I do find out later. We did play through this turn. But essentially, you have to set up on the hill, and your only defense when you set up on the hill is that you can set up entrenched, but that's always not so great. Well, the problem is routing from these things. You always have to spend 1 movement point to leave, which only really gives you 5 movement points to route. And often that leaves you wanting 1 more movement point to get to a route location you really wanted to get to. Uh, Aside from that, though, uh, being a disadvantage, you're pretty much stuck here as the Brits. This is where you're defending, up here on this hill. Let me erase that. This is your defensive position. You got to hold this, basically, for 7 turns, which, is kind of a long time, especially when these reinforcements come in on turn 2. They start coming in, trickling in. But the worst part of it is that they can come in. Let's use this yellow here. So the reinforcements can come in right at this edge of this plateau. One of the few defenses that you have as these Australians are these captured Italian guns. You've got a couple of machine guns with low ammo up here. All of these have low ammo. There's another hip one here that fires in a minute. And they're also captured. So with low ammo and with captured parameters, these guys have a hard time shooting very much, and you kind of really need them. And what happened to me on this turn is when I defensive fired at him, this is turn 3, everything broke. Actually, this one simply ceased to exist because I rolled a 12, so that one was gone. All right. This one here fired, and it broke. Actually, it didn't break the first time. It actually did hit these guys who had by then been exposed, but they passed their morale checks. These guys, I had some guys attacking here. These guys were actually here. They attacked. They passed the morale check. The gun fired. There was a hip gun in here. It fired, and it failed its morale check. Actually, these were the wrong guns. These are actually B11 guns. So it's not the morale check that the gun failed. It was its breakdown number, so it malved. And then I intensified this, and it was also destroyed. So in one turn, now it was probably questionable whether I needed to do that, but I wanted to get some kind of an effect out of my guns because to me they're kind of critical for the defense. So on the Germans' turn advancing fire, they broke several stacks, and at which point I resigned. And the reason I resigned is because these guns were out of commission already. All right, I didn't have them anymore. And Doug, to his credit, and I don't blame him for this, and I actually have to apologize a little bit. Maybe it was a mistake. Hold on. Got to put on the mistake hat, right? Just symbolically. I don't really feel it was that much of a mistake to throw in the towel on this because it was going to be a boring scenario after this. He has 5 more squads that are coming in up here as reinforcements. I don't know what happened to them. He'd put them off to the side someplace or wherever they are. But anyway, he had 5 more squads coming in over here, relentlessly coming up the hill, breaking my guys. These guys were over here. He had a mortar over here. It wasn't deployed yet. I think it was right here. I'm not so sure I can remove his concealments. No, I can't. He also had another mortar here. Those had smoke. Smoke the top of the hill. Run up and take these guys out. You can't leave the foxholes. It's a little bit too dangerous. There is some cover here. These orchards are actually vineyards, I believe, so they actually do protect you a little bit. I think they're olive groves. They get an extra +1. I guess those olive trees are stronger for protecting you than regular ones. Special olive trees. So, uh, again, apologies to Doug, but I want to get into the idea of the scenario and why I don't like it. And I didn't realize I wasn't going to like it because we're going to do this paradrop scenario, and that should be fun, right? Paradroppers, who doesn't want to do a paradrop scenario? Well, if you've ever paradropped with the Germans, or actually anybody, and the amount of scatter that you can get, and the ineptitude which with a drop, it can take a couple turns to sort yourself out. So you can see Doug by turn 3, he still had a bunch of stuff over here. And these guys weren't really going anywhere. These guys were from reinforcements, I think. And so the problem is the reinforcements. Let me go back to the scenario card. He gets 10 squads, and I've got these 3 guns no longer there. Whoops, oops, 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 oops. It's not working well. Okay, 3 guns. They're gone. And, Doug, again, as I was mentioning before, he said, oh, well, we should play it out to the very bitter end. And I would decline that because when I brought it up to him, I said, okay, so do you want to try to play this as the Brits without any of your guns? And he didn't really have an answer for that because I don't think he really wanted to, but he didn't want to say, yeah, you're right. People don't like to say that they're not wrong or that they are wrong and that you're right. Maybe it's just me. People don't want to admit that I'm right. That's very possible and be such an insufferable, what about it. Anyway, so getting back to this scenario, why I don't like it is because of the set piece of the battle. The Brits have to defend up here Where is it? These overlays are here. I think right in this sector. And that's all they can do. The Germans are going to be coming up, encroaching on them slowly, carefully, concealed, then blasting with in the advancing fire phase with 5.48s. It's got a lot of them. 14, 20 squads versus 9 squads that are under ammo shortage for the mediums. Without the guns there, it didn't sound like a fair fight, and I don't think it was going to be. And I didn't think it was worthwhile playing to the end. But I'll tell you why I think this wasn't a fun scenario. It's simply because there was nothing that you could do as the Australians but sit there, turn after turn, sit in your foxholes, and wait for him to come up. Hopefully, blast him. If you keep a gun around or two, I might have done that better. I have to admit, my medium machine guns weren't doing that bad. I was keeping some guys pinned down at a distance with those. But all other things being equal, he's going to flash those with the mortars, or if he didn't have the smoke, he would have pummeled them. 8 up 2s is nothing to sneeze at in foxholes. So, you know, I don't like a scenario where I don't have a chance really to do anything but localized, extremely localized counterattacks with a squad by, for example, going into close combat. Maybe. Uh, So that brings me to the genre of meeting engagements. Is the more and more I play ASL, the more I want to be able to have both sides have options for attack and defense. You see this a lot in the historical ASL modules. One side's attacking in general, but the other side has some counterattack capability. At least you got something fun to do. Here you're just waiting around in your foxholes, waiting to die. It's very demoralizing for the personal morale check factor. And I guess you could say I failed my personal morale check, but it wasn't really about that as much as it was like pragmatism. If I had been the commander there, I would have fallen back as fastly as I could. But there was no counterattack capability for the Brits. So I want to be able to do both. I think I'm going to move on uh, to scenarios where there's a little more room for maneuverability. I've been playing awful defensive scenarios, night scenarios, sitting with no move markers on them, waiting and waiting to do something, just waiting for them to sneak up if you miss your star shells. Uh, I think it might be exciting solitaire, but I'm not into defense only scenarios anymore. It has to be at least a meeting engagement, or I need to be the attacker. So I've got to look around for those kinds of scenarios. If you got any ideas, put them in the forum. I'm really interested in hearing your opinion about what you think makes a good scenarios as well. So thanks for listening here. Again, Mark Hanna, Hothead Thundermouth, at your service. See you next time. Thanks.